zealots, psychers, sharpshooters, the average Twitch viewer, trappers, the bit of Nigel, Liver King's dietitian, Bane after a week in Belgium, Twitter users when you mention Henry Cavill, and this fucking piece of shit, big garbage piece of shit. My dear friends and foes, let there be no mistake. I'm obviously talking about Warhammer 40K Darktide, the newest addition to the Fat Shark legacy of Warhammer games. Now, I'm in no way a Warhammer expert. I made that very clear in this video, which you should check out after this one. Do it. But I still took it upon me to make a review of this game because I can. As per usual, I will start off with the positives and then will proceed to dangle my dingleberries over the parts of this game that deserve it, in my opinion. Ready? Positives. Let's just start off with the overall design and atmosphere of this game, because it's obvious a lot of the Warhammer 40k universe has already been established in tons of books and codexes and artworks, and don't forget the the little figurines from the tabletop game. So yeah, it was pretty much established already. But it doesn't mean that the entire universe has been incorporated. Instead, this game mainly focuses on humans and Nigel. But that doesn't take away that the execution of this all has been done exquisitely. See, I am a sucker for sci-fi settings, and this, even though this isn't your typical white hallway science fiction, but rather lasers down the sewers type of science fiction, it still makes me go, The level design makes full use of the setting with these huge walkways, with towering cathedral type of buildings looming over you at certain parts of the missions. And then mixes it up with a shit ton of little hallways and little rooms where you get swarmed by a shitload of League of Legends players, which you can then proceed to erase from existence in any way you fancy, basically. There's also quite some enemy variety. It's not huge. It's mostly focused on Nurgle. So you have a lot of scabs or like infected type of enemies running around. These infected ogrins and shit like that. Besides that, you have like armored and non-armored, and some of them are called scabs, and some of them are called scrubs, and some of them are called shimmy shimmy ya, shimmy yay. I don't know, but the variety is there. Some have guns, some don't have guns, some are melee specialists, some are fucking shitty ass fucking cancer dog. There's variety. The whole vibe is super sinister and decrepit. I believe you nerds call it grimdark. Well, whatever you want to call it, it makes my dick hard. And after the first few missions, I had to change underwear because I shat myself out of excitement. You see, around every corner there is some weird or gruesome scene on display for you to discover. Like, for example, the Medicaid stations where you get your full health back. These things look something straight out of a fucking Hellraiser movie or whatever, and this somehow reminds me of those fortune teller robots you sometimes see in old shows. And there are probably quite a few Easter eggs to find in these levels that would probably fly right over my head because I know fuck about shit. But despite that fact, I was still able to really enjoy the setting and the aesthetics of the levels. Some of them had a more Mad Max type of vibe, while others were more like the gothic cathedral type of levels. Also, the voice acting is something that I really need to touch on, because just like in Vermintide 2, the voice acting in this game is again exceptional. Some classes and some voices do tend to sound a bit better than others, but in overall sense, it's a fat 9 out of 10 for me in that regard. Voice acting, mwah. With probably the zealots and the ogrins taking the cake in this department. All in all, the design and like this whole vibe seems to be done quite well. I am, like I said, I'm no lore master, but I think it captures the atmosphere of the universe in this little segment pretty well. Darktide's principles are very similar to that of Vermintide 2. You and 3 other players head off into missions which you can play on varying levels of difficulty. The higher the difficulty, the higher the rewards.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This time around there are 4 classes to pick from as opposed to 4 characters, which means that Even though you have the same class as another player, you still can team up. So you're not getting locked out of your character because some rando or your friend wants to play that character. Great plus in my opinion. Except for if you have more than one Ogren on your team that focuses on melee, because even one of those motherfuckers takes up half of your screen space, let alone two. Can you please move so I can get a shot in? Okay, thanks. The missions are for the most part pretty similar. Walk through a hallway, smack some boys. Walk through a room, smack some boys. Walk through another hallway, smack some more boys while you upload your Frieza x/Yaoi fanfiction. The only real difference gameplay-wise being the end of each mission, maybe some little objective in between, but it's mostly the final objective, maybe a little random surprise here and there that really makes a difference from mission to mission, except for like the mission location. I will not spoil like the ending of each mission because I think those are probably the highlights. So yeah, fuck you. Other than that, there are some modifiers that will, for example, limit the visibility of a certain mission or increase the intensity of the amount of mobs that will come your way. Nothing groundbreaking, but it adds a little bit more variation between missions. Now, it all might seem a bit repetitive as I'm explaining it, which it in all honesty kinda is. But the repetitive nature isn't a real detriment to the game, in my opinion. Since the best part of this game is just erasing hordes and hordes of enemies. The more the merrier, and oh my god, it just feels so good to just jump into a group of scabs and just swing your power sword around like you're a Jedi after a bottle of Bacardi and a few bumps of cocaine. Also, to touch on the gunplay is for the most part pretty well done. Almost every other type of gun feels unique and they all have their pros and cons. Some guns have a high fire rate with a larger magazine, but they lack the ability to properly ADS and you're basically only stuck with hip fire. Or some just have an iron sight or some things like that. There's always a trade-off. With that being said though, not all weapons feel equal. Some of them definitely feel a lot more powerful than others. Some guns just felt like I was outright shooting spitballs, while others made it feel like I was nuking my way through a mission. As soon as I had figured out what my favorites were, the power sword and the heavy bolter, I just felt fucking unstoppable. And that's what you want in the end from these horde-like games, right? TLDR, the gameplay loop isn't anything groundbreaking and might seem and feel repetitive at times, especially if you're not that big into the horde games. But continuously killing these waves of enemies is what this game does best, and Fat Shark capitalizes on that massively in Darktide. A little honorable mention, you see Fat Shark does this thing where you can press escape and skip the intro screens with all the devs and the publishers in the beginning. Most games force you to watch it with probably way too loud menu music blasting through your headphones. And I really fucking hate that, and Fat Shark breaks that trend. Thank you, Fat Shark. It's a small thing to do, but I greatly appreciate it. I genuinely mean that. But don't pull your dicks out yet, because Dingleberry Express is on its way. Let's get into the negatives. The most glaring one. The performance of this game seems outright horrible. I play with a GTX 1070. I know it's not the best GPU on the market right now. Give me a break, GPUs are expensive. But yeah, so I had to set everything to low, and still my FPS varies throughout the mission from 40 to 120 FPS. And the biggest factor there seems to be what location I am, rather than how much enemies are on screen or what's happening on screen, although that obviously also plays a factor. At first I also had very frequent crashing, but changing the amount of CPU threads this game uses from 21 to 12 in the launcher, not in-game, seemed to have fixed a lot of the stability issues in that regard, but I'm still scraping the bottom of the barrel for frames per second. I'm playing on the lowest setting and sometimes that really looks like fucking shit. And playing on 1080p instead of 1440p seems to make no real difference when it comes to performance. I have no clue what the hell is going on. I've tried so many things, but it seems like the optimization needs some work. Or maybe I need to pray to the machine spirits some more of my PC. I don't know. Just fucking hell. Apart from that, there were some other more minor bugs. Sometimes scriptures you grab and you then drop and want to pick up again. You can't pick up. You get like the prompt to pick them up, but it's bugged in like the ground or something. I've had this happen to me a single time, so maybe we were really unlucky. I don't know if this happens a lot with some people, but yeah, it really fucking sucks. You got the Poxhounds movement, which is just broken. They run around like a fucking Tasmanian devil before they actually lock into their target. And I had 2 instances of the mutant motherfuckers pushing me through a wall, making me clip through the ground and just falling to my death. The occurrences of those things were so minor that it wasn't too big of a deal to me. It was mainly just the overall performance that just seems to need a lot more attention. I hate the progression in this game. I truly do. And I'm not talking about like the leveling of your character, because that really doesn't fucking matter. Your power is mostly tied to the equipment you use, and even though the feeling gameplay-wise is very good for the most part, the way you obtain the guns you are using, shit. I just fucking hate this stupid-ass store system that just resets every hour. Or even worse, the special store system that resets every fucking day. That's like the place where you spend the little poo nuggets you get from completing the weekly challenges. Now you can buy random equipment at that same store, but if you want to know what you're gonna get, you need to await the store refresh. And some weapons just seem to almost never drop in the stores. With, for me, the main one was the heavy bolter. Now, then just keep grinding and spend your poo nuggets on the random acquired weapons until you eventually get what you want. No! Because the only way to get your poo nuggets is to complete the weekly challenges. And if you've completed all the weekly challenges, there are no other ways to obtain more poo nuggets. So when you've done everything for the week, you can just basically just say, yeah, fuck it. So if you've already done all those challenges and are out of poo nuggets, then you're at the mercy of the stores again. And it's just annoying. I don't like it. I even prefer the Vermintide random drop system over this. I'm not gonna lie. And this all ties into the next point, the crafting. Because the crafting in this game is not even in this game. Like, what the actual fuck? With all due respect, I am just very much opposed to calling a game a full release without having one of your core mechanics present at the full release. The only way of crafting, by the way, is by leveling up the rarity of your weapon. You cannot increase the power level of your weapon. And they now have added just another option where you can switch out the perks, I believe. But there's no way to craft the actual weapon in itself like you could do in Vermintide 2. So you're even more dependent on this fucking stupid-ass store system. Why? The narrative is kind of simple. You're a convict that gets caught up in some outbreak of Nigel infestation or whatever. You help the warden and yourself to survive, and after that you get recruited for more of these type of missions where you are basically cannon fodder and you have to prove that you're trustworthy. Yet there seems to be a traitor or whatever, or yeah, nobody gives a fuck. This whole story is just fluff. It ain't the worst, but I couldn't care less, to be honest. I'm gonna be fair here because there are better narratives possible in this universe. The cosmetics are shit. At least the free ones. The only free skins that look somewhat nice are the ones that you can obtain by completing challenges. The paid skins still make you look like you're wearing fucking Ned Flanders' outfit compared to them. And the skins that you can buy with the standard in-game currency, the Ordo ducats, are just fucking boring. Blue or red, take your pick. Nothing even remotely interesting. Now, I get that they want to monetize. And in all fairness, a lot of the prices in the cosmetics store are quite reasonable for modern standards, I guess, for what you're getting. Except there's, again, the standard in-game currency practices bullshit, where some things just cost a little bit more than the smallest amount you can actually buy of the premium currency, trying to get you to double up on your transaction. I fucking hate that. It just feels scummy, it feels predatory. Okay, little rectification here. Aside from the standard €10 packs, there's also a tier in between of about €12 to accommodate for the corresponding bundle prices, which is quite fair in my opinion. So credit where credit is due. Now, I've been shitting quite a bit on this game now, but that doesn't mean that I won't recommend it. If you are a fan of the Warhammer 40K franchise or horde games in general, where the main focus is just crushing skulls, then this game is a no-brainer, especially for the $40. That being said, the game currently still has its performance issues and seems to be very demanding. So if you're running an outdated PC build, then your miles may vary. Same goes for the progression. Some people might like it. In my opinion, it is severely flawed and even a step down in comparison to Vermintide 2. Now that is something that they could fix in the future, but seeing they went for a full release, I'm gonna have to be harsh on it. So I am giving Warhammer 40K Darktide a 4 out of 10 on the doo-doo scale. There's a lot to improve, but at its core, it still does what it needs to do and does it quite well with exceptional design and atmosphere. But in all honesty, it just kind of looked like what this game needed the most. It was just a bit more time in the oven. It seemed really not finished, seeing the performance and the exclusion of a lot of the crafting elements. But in a way, I can't really blame them. Holiday season is coming up, so I guess they had to get in on the Christmas sales, which is reasonable for their company after all. But in regards of like the quality of the game, I really think they should have delayed. All in all, 4 out of 10 on the doo-doo scale. A lot of room for improvement, but in overall a positive experience. But this may vary wildly. That were my thoughts on Darktide. Thank you guys for watching again. Bye!